I'm Patrick Daly and I'm one of the team at the Rural Doctors Association of Australia. Welcome to our latest podcast series featuring RDAA's award recipients for 2025. In today's podcast, I'm chatting with Eiryn Twidale, RDAA's Medical Student of the Year. Eiryn's a final year medical student from Griffith University who sought out the opportunity 2 years ago to relocate to Kingaroy in rural Queensland to undertake her training as part of RuralMedEd's LongLook program. She's also been working as a nurse at the local hospital. As you'll hear, she and her fiancé Luke jumped boots and all into local community life from their first week in town, and they've made an enormous impact. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land we meet on across Australia as we listen to this podcast. I'd also like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and welcome any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander listeners who may be joining us. Eiryn, congratulations on receiving our RDAA Medical Student of the Year Award for 2025. If memory serves me correctly, you're the first ever working nurse to also simultaneously be our Medical Student of the Year, so credit to you for that. Was a career in health always on the cards for you, or might you have done otherwise?
Thank you so much for having me, and obviously I'm so grateful to receive the award and have a chat with you today. As far as a career goes, I had an epiphany in grade 8 after going to the hospital as a patient that I wanted to become a doctor, and it has always been my dream from there. I didn't have any niggles or inklings of any other career wishes or wants. I have, in saying that though, had what you could consider quite a non-conventional route of getting to where I am today. So I actually did a Bachelor of Nursing 3 years after leaving school. So I dabbled in the mining industry and administration, and I kind of got lured to hospital administration, which finally gave me the kick to start off my Bachelor of Nursing. And then it was within my second year of my nursing degree that I knew I needed to start having a look at the GAMSAT and some medicine programs that could be suited to me. And that's how I've landed here at Griffith University.
Were there doctors during your early nursing career who inspired you to make the move over to medicine?
Absolutely. I think one of my, it was actually more so in hospital administration, if I'm honest. I landed a job as a director secretary where I got to work one-on-one with a lot of ED physicians, and I just learnt that they're people. I think society places this, guise or unrealistic expectation that doctors are these superhumans that are perfect in every way, and are just these uncommon breed. And my exposure to working in the hospital, both as a nurse and in administration, really showed me that doctors are just people, and it is more so a matter of perseverance and hard work and commitment than it is being, a brainiac, having a severely high IQ and never getting anything wrong. So I'm extremely grateful to my time in hospital administration and my time as a nurse, for sure.
What about in terms of a rural upbringing and your interest in rural medicine in particular? Did you have a rural upbringing at all, or how did you gain exposure to a rural way of medical practice?
Yeah. So I'm from Yeppoon, Queensland, which is about 30 minutes from Rockhampton, Queensland, in central Queensland.
Nice
So
part of the world.
it is a beautiful part of the world. You could describe that as regional. Yeppoon was a similar size to where I am now, Kingaroy, which was about 10,000 when I was growing up. And I guess you could say it was like a small town feel, but not, by no means was I rural, or what I would consider rural or remote. I definitely have always liked small town feel. I always like knowing who I see in the shopping centre when I'm getting my groceries, or, saying good morning to everyone as they walk past you. And I definitely felt like a fish out of water for my preclinical years in the Gold Coast, and I could not wait to get back to a smaller town. So I think naturally the aspects of rural medicine kind of extend into that, where you are familiar with your workforce and your community and the needs that it has. And I I just feel like rural towns also are somewhere where you can actually get a breath of fresh air. You're not sitting in traffic, you're not bumper to bumper in a rush all the time. You can actually just relax and everything's 2 minutes down the road. I love it.
Did you find this out through experience or just from reading and watching YouTube, or was there some element when you were in the mining industry that you saw some rural communities?
No, I feel like it was more of a feeling. Um, like I said, Yapoon kind of shared that feeling when I was a child, and then I wasn't sure what type of medicine I was going to gravitate to when I started the degree. When I first moved to the Gold Coast, I thought it was great, and I very quickly grew tired of the pace, and the energy is great for pumping out massive amounts of work and trying to take on a new degree, but I find it I didn't feel settled in the Gold Coast whatsoever. So I think it was more of an experience once I actually left Yeppoon for the first time in my life to come and study medicine. As soon as the second year hit and we were starting to preference clinical time, my partner and I both couldn't wait to get out, to be honest.
Because your partner's a teacher, isn't he? And teachers are as in much short supply as doctors in rural areas. So I'm sure he found it easy to get a position as well.
He did. And he loves it out here as well, which is always good.
Speaking about here, you're very committed to obviously a rural medical career, but also training as much as you can in a rural setting. So tell me about your move to Kingaroy in 2023. What was behind it? What were the challenges in getting there? And I'm particularly interested in hearing how effective Griffith Uni's LongLook program was in setting up things for you in training rurally.
Absolutely. So you will hear me in person in real life harp on about how highly I think of the Griffith Rural Long Look program. But in to begin with, I guess moving to a new town in any instance is quite nerve wracking. You don't know anyone, you're not sure of the lay of the land, you're not sure how your time's going to go there. And obviously, for medical students listening to this, committing to a placement in a rural area can feel like a very final decision in leaving the comforts of the city, I guess. Um, but for anyone who is lucky enough to be a Griffith University Long Look student, I could not speak highly enough in their long established processes in making sure that students enjoy their time rurally. So again, I was a little bit out of the mold where my partner and I sorted our own accommodation. But if you were, a young Griffith medical student wanting to do rural time, you get offered accommodation. You have a site coordinator who checks in with you weekly. You have weekly teaching sessions where you all sit together as colleagues and get to share your experiences and do teaching together. And then Griffith Long Look program also prioritizes community time. So you can actually book in as part of your rostering some commitment to community activities. So we've got Rural Fire Brigade volunteers, we've had Lifeline and Vinnie's volunteers. And I guess I've become very ingrained in the community with it being so I guess, encouraged by the RuralMedEd's Long Look program as well. So setting you up, you don't just get dumped in an accommodation where you just rock up to the hospital and do your placement. It is very holistic in making sure that you as a person enjoy your time in a rural area.
Did you go to Kingaroy knowing it would be 1 to 2 years? How does that work in terms of the amount of time that's expected of you on the placement?
Yeah. So Rural Medical Education Australia or RuralMedEd, they're the only, and Griffith are the only program that I know of that actually sets up this longitudinal placement scheme. So you do a minimum of a year. I chose to stay the 2 just because I knew within myself I was gaining academic but personal benefits to the program where I'm actually getting to know my mentors and my supervisors, more than just a passing wave in the corridor. They get to know me as a person and my personal learning goals as well. So it was a no-brainer to extend my years to my time out here to 2 years. And they're also very flexible. I've actually been away 3 months of this year, fulfilling my rural electives and selectives as well. So
And then you can go back to the placement. It's there for you when you get back.
100% like a home.
So, having been through the LongLook program, what, in your view, needs to change or improve to make things easier for more rural students or more medical students to get into medicine and to get more medical students from either the bush or the city interested in rural medicine? And is the LongLook program doing it right?
Yeah, this is a massive passion point of mine. I've had the best 2 years, and I just think to myself, why aren't more people doing this?
Yes.
So I really appreciate this question. My feeling is that rural kids getting into medicine, I feel there are already schemes and processes in place that universities are prioritizing a certain percentage of their cohort to be regionally or rurally based. This is how I got into medicine. So my GPA was great. My GAMSAT score would not have been competitive in the city context. However, it has been proven that regional rural people will go back to regional rural areas. So I feel that this need is being met by the universities, and RuralMedEd obviously are compounding a regional rural student's interest in their given area. So as I mentioned, I've been able to establish myself here for 2 years in one location with the flexibility of scratching the itch of any other interests that I have. So I've been to Darwin and Mount Isa, and other areas this year. And then I feel that the RuralMedEd program as well emphasizes that as medical students, you don't need subspecialty exposure. You need to know how to talk to a patient, to do really the nuts and bolts of clinical exams and getting your foundational skills down. And I really feel like RuralMedEd really emphasize that point that you're learning how to do the basics and do them well. Where I think the issue lies in rural medicine and where we're not being able to maintain a rural workforce, and this is my lived experience, is you go out to these rural areas and you're working one-on-one with a senior. This is phenomenal for your learning, but a lot of rural hospitals are lacking their own homegrown junior workforce. So I have found that it's been, as a medical student, you're looking for the next step. And I find that seniors, when you're looking up to seniors, so for me, I'm scrubbing into a Caesar for a delivery of a big, beautiful baby, and I'm looking across at my mentor, who's a senior doctor, doing the Caesar by themselves.
Yes,
And
yes.
that just feels at times so out of reach. I really feel like if local hospital and health services were able to bolster a homegrown junior workforce, it would feel more relatable to these medical students where they can see that next step in their career rather than wondering, well, how am I going to get from point A to point Z? So I'm really proud to announce that this has been heard specifically within the Kingaroy Hospital and the Darling Downs Hospital and Health Service, and they're actually placing Kingaroy interns at the hospital next year, which I'll get to be a guinea pig for that.
Yes, right.
And hopefully fill and I suppose mitigate this attrition that we're having where medical students love it and then there's no jobs for them. So I think that this is on a lot of people's radars and will change in the near future. And I hope that then translates to a stronger and more long-term rural workforce.
So in a sense, you're a good test case for things going forward, and if it works, it'll be a great thing.
That's right. And I figured I'd be a great candidate because I've already been here 2 years. I know
Yes,
my way around the place. So why not?
absolutely. Do you know if Queensland Health is looking at it for other areas as well?
Yeah, I can't, again, like I have definitely had I suppose like a limited experience in the whole hospital and health service. I know that what's happening at the moment is our base hospital, which is our regional hospital in Toowoomba, they're actually lending their accreditation and their workforce to these satellite hospitals. But we have a very motivated leadership team here at the moment who is looking to actually have Kingaroy Hospital gain its own accreditation so we can have local medical students and I suppose local residents who become doctors actually get to stay as well. So they don't get lost to the vortex of, medical training and moving every 2 years and things like that.
And makes for a much more stable workforce as well.
Yes, I think so.
Just on Kingaroy, you've also been active in helping to drive quality improvement in the local clinical teaching environment for medical students and interns. What had you recommended and what improvements can make a big difference in this space?
Yeah. So again, kind of like furthering on from the previous statement where we don't have many junior doctors. I found that we have 9 medical students in Kingaroy each year between year 3 and 4. And I personally have found that teaching is the best way to learn, where you get to consolidate your knowledge and actually find your gaps in knowledge as well. And also, teaching is a cornerstone in your communication as a doctor because we're needing to educate our patients. So I found that I was actually really fearful of speaking and public speaking. So
You're not alone there.
no, that's right. Many people feel that way. So, and not only that, but speaking in a way that actually makes sense to other people is really important as a doctor.
It's quite a
So,
skill, quite a
it
skill.
is. It is. We're so intelligible in how much information we learn as doctors, but as a nurse, I've I've witnessed these encounters between doctors and patients, and the doctor will leave the room, and then the patient looks to me and goes, "What?" So I really felt passionate about working on these communication skills, pushing myself outside of my comfort zone in my misplaced beliefs that I don't know what I'm talking about, because we're going to have to know. And again, this just comes back to the safety and the familiarity of the Rural LongLook program. I get to look at my 8 other peers and go, "Hey guys, I really want to make a presentation on A, B, and C. Are you willing to have a listen in?" And everyone's just really jumped on the opportunity this year. So we have weekly teaching sessions, but I this year endeavored to push myself out of my comfort zone and pick a topic that I don't know very well, come up with a presentation, keep it to a time limit, and then invite questions and clinical knowledge to kind of just come in from everyone else. And we end up teaching each other as well, which is great.
It's interesting you're mentioning your experience as a nurse with communication. How has your work as a nurse shaped how you will be as a doctor, do you think? What have you learned from nursing that you've brought across as areas that as a doctor you would want to improve in?
Mm.
And I would preface this also by saying at the moment you're working a part-time slash casual job
Yes.
while you're being a busy medical student, and that's by being a casual nurse at Kingaroy Hospital,
Yes.
which
So
must keep you incredibly busy.
yes, it's a beautiful busy. I wouldn't change it for the world. I any secondary school students that I get to speak to, and my partner will often plug to any year 12, year 11 like kids that he's teaching who want to become doctors, that he should talk to me, because I cannot speak highly enough of nursing as a career to come before a medicine career. I feel that the nursing role is so practical in the fact that you're doing everything that you think to do when you're a doctor. So, someone comes in with chest pain. I know how to physically do the skills to work up my chest pain. And then I give that information over to the doctor. So I think having the practicality in the role and knowing how to lean on practical skills is invaluable. And it's one of the biggest transitional challenges for medical students coming into the clinical environment. How do these forms work? How does this machine work? How does this equipment work? Where do I find this? That is such a massive leap to have to take. Whereas nursing, I know how to do everything already. I'm just supplementing and growing my clinical reasoning skills and my clinical knowledge. But as a nurse, and obviously you're observing the work of doctors all the time, one of the biggest things I found was this massive, it's like ships in the night. You'll have this patient interaction occur in front of you where the doctor walks in, they say their stuff, and then the patient looks at them and nods, and then they look around the room once the doctor's left and go, "What?" And I just think that experience of watching, a doctor genuinely, and it's not in any ill intent, they think that they have communicated everything effectively to their patients, but there's no closed loop of, okay, do you understand what's going on? Or can you tell me what the next steps are? Or do you have any concerns or questions? A lot of the time, doctors can get so strung up in their to-do lists and their clinical knowledge that they forget to translate that to lay language where patients can understand. And this is particularly felt in rural areas where the health literacy can be lower than your metropolitan average. So you genuinely need to make it easy to understand and digestible. Because the other thing that nursing's taught me is it being a patient is such an emotional experience. It is scary, it's unfamiliar, there is a massive power imbalance, you're very vulnerable, you're at the, disposal of all these tests and this information. So being able to actually spend so much time at the bedside with the patient and really get a feel through them, you get to empathize through their experience. And you only see, and doctors don't get to see all of this groundwork that's being done. They see the snippets where they walk in and out of the room. So any person who's considering medicine, I implore them to do an undergraduate in nursing, because what it has done for me as well has made the clinical years of my degree so much easier, because you're already a healthcare professional. You've already navigated the healthcare system, and you value the role of every other team member in that room as well.
Do you think there's an argument for medical students doing nursing placements?
In Germany, they do. So
wow.
6 weeks before they can start as a medical student, they're changing bedpans, they're rolling patients, they're, doing skin cares. They actually do. One of the SMOs out here is he's from Germany. He did his medical school in Germany. He's studying to be a FASM. And he did that for 6 weeks. And he said it gave him so much insight into the importance of a nurse.
Yes, I can imagine. Yeah. So your commitment to rural medicine has just taken another step up fairly recently, I think, with your acceptance into the Queensland Rural Generalist pathway. And it's a good time to be becoming a rural generalist, with it having just been recognised as a specialty, I would say.
How exciting.
Very good timing. Tell me about being accepted into the pathway, and I'm also interested to hear what advanced skills do you think you'll want to focus on as a rural generalist looking forward into your career? What's taken your interest?
Yeah. So I was very excited to apply for the QRGP pathway, because we obviously get guaranteed mentorship and exposure into gravitating to rural generalism and getting the exposure we need in those select terms. So being accepted into the pathway again has been another perk of this year. It's been a very great year for me. As far as advanced skills goes, I can't look past women's health.
Yes.
So especially in the rural setting, I think one of the most integral roles of rural generalists is being able to support our growing populations in these really important areas. Kingaroy in particular has had 400 babies this year.
Wow.
And the fact that we've been able to keep that many locally with their families and their support systems and have them deliver in a safe manner, I just couldn't think of a better job. I also really love that women's health is, and pregnancy in itself is just so focused on supporting what your body is naturally designed to do. And, leading a woman into their own informed decision-making and being able to aspire for the birth and pregnancy that they're hoping for. And I also think women's health is a massive, massive, service gap in rural areas where a lot of women are having to travel into metropolitan areas to get appointments for marinas or really go through thorough contraceptive discussions or have investigations for diseases like PCOS and endometriosis. And, that is becoming more prevalent in our populations, both metro and rural. So the prospect of being able to learn all of these skills in a rural generalist setting and be able to keep people locally and save them from traveling and have that longitudinal relationship with them, potentially as their GP as well, sign me up.
Sounds great. How will your pathway look? Will you remain in Kingaroy for it going forward, or do you know how the journey looks at this stage?
Yeah, so rural generalist training, to do an AST, you need to have a certain number of procedures in an accredited place. Kingaroy is not yet one of those. So I'll be able to do 6 months of my internship here next year, and I'll do the remaining in Toowoomba. I would then aspire to gravitate into their obstetric gynecology department, where I get the relevant surgical and inpatient skills that I need. And you can do a diploma with the College of Obstetrics and Gynecology. And then you would also obviously complete your general practice training, which I'd love to do back here in Kingaroy. And eventually I would love to end up back in Kingaroy.
And we'll get to it soon, but there's probably a community reason why you'd like to end up in back in Kingaroy too, and probably half of Kingaroy would like that as well.
Yeah.
By the sound of it, but we'll get to that. You've been active also in seeking out other training placements during your journey as a medical student, including with the Royal Flying Doctor Service and the Heart of Australia initiative. And I should just mention there's a great pic you sent me of you in the driver's seat of the Heart of Australia prime mover. I sense there might be a frustrated long distance truck driver in you there somewhere. But tell me about some of the highlights from these placements and some of the key takeaways you took from them.
Yeah, so the Royal Flying Doctor Service has issued a certain number of select placements to LongLook students as our rural elective selective. So I actually had to apply for that. And then similarly, Heart of Australia is open to metro and rural. So if you have some time in your academic calendars, I would absolutely recommend you apply for it. The key takeaways from both of these experiences has just been getting to know people who live out in the sticks.
The real sticks.
The real sticks.
Yes.
Like I'm talking towns of 200 people, less. I got to see parts of Australia that I never would have come across, on my travels otherwise. Places like Quilpie, Camooweal, Dajara, Charleville, even though they're well-established rural towns, getting to go to these places in a medical student setting, I'm getting to meet people in such a personal manner so quickly, obviously because of a medical environment is one based on trust. So you just get to ask these people, like, what brought you out here? How you're a fourth generation cattle farmer. What's that like? Like you just really get to know more about Australia's culture and the people that live there. What really amazed me is you practice within these really well-resourced hospitals where you can do bloods and CT scans and MRIs and open them up. But out in these clinics, these bush clinics, you literally are forced to really work on your history and clinical exam. And again, seeing clinical medicine just show its strengths and actually have such great utility in coming to a diagnosis and being able to triage patients and what they need was just such a powerful skill to know that you don't need all of the fancy tests and you can be a great clinician by using your skills. I think as well, just remembering the resourcing and being grateful for the resourcing that we have and being judicious in its use. And then the bush clinics in themselves are just an absolute spectacle to watch. So for RFDS, every day you'd have this great team who would have the list of what you'd need to pack. And you walk into an empty room and 15 minutes later, you have a health clinic. Like,
yes,
name a cooler specialty, please, someone. Absolutely. Like, I just think that's so cool. And you're providing, again, these essential services so patients don't have to drive 4 hours one way to go to their nearest doctor. You're coming to them and they appreciate it so much. So the RFDS and Heart of Australia were such integral experiences into just deepening my love for rural medicine, for sure.
Is there a way of getting that understanding of the basic need for clinical decision making in those sort of settings, as you said, without the bells and whistles of machines and test kits and all that sort of thing? Is there a way to share that with more junior doctors, do you think? Because obviously the placements are, as you said, limited and by application.
Absolutely. My personal opinion on this is the closest next environment which replicates this is GP. So having a really good general practitioner as a mentor who can show you how and why they come to a clinical diagnosis and how and why they do or don't do tests has been really good. I think in the hospital setting, it's very much ingrained into the practice to corroborate your diagnoses and prove it with investigations. Um, so whereas in GP, you're kind of somewhat a little bit more restricted, A, by time, but B, by funding and, patient's means, because the CT that you would do in the hospital setting would actually cost a patient in other settings for like GP. And you've also got the trust in the patient GP relationship and then time. So if you can facilitate a longitudinal GP placement, and for me, I have seen the same patients in GP all year where you go, oh, that's weird. The GP goes, I think it's this, and this is why. We'll get them back in a month and see how they're going. Rather than jumping on blood, CT, going through all the bells and whistles, they just know that it's clinically safe and they go, this is what I think it is, and we'll prove it with time.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's interesting that setting is the sort of closest to what you see in remote settings.
I think why medical students don't get to see this as well is because a lot of bigger universities are doing just 6-week blocks of GP. So you don't get the longitudinal experience where you're seeing the same patients over a long period of time.
That's so valuable.
Mm.
Now to your return to Kingaroy after you have undertaken some rural generalist training and why the community might like that. Outside medicine, you have another passion, running and also competing in triathlons. Passion that's seen you and your partner Luke start up a run club in Kingaroy, which sounds like it's going from strength to strength. Can you tell me about the rise of the Kingaroy Run Company, I assume it is, or Kingaroy Run Co, and
Run
now also
Co, yeah.
Run Co, and now also the Kingaroy Trico.
Mm.
And tell me a little bit about some of the locals who never thought they would run a triathlon, but now seemingly are.
So this is where my partner in crime, Luke, really has taken the reins and just flourished in this community. As a background, we've both really valued exercise as a way to spend time together, especially in a smaller town where there's quote unquote not much to do, and also get to see a region and meet people in the community. So this run club, its inception was from us moving. We moved here for my clinical years, and we moved on New Year's, and our first run club was on the 9th of January. So we were seeing people in passing, these young people, healthy people, walking around in the shops. You'd get a glimpse, you'd say hello or a smile. But Luke actually has a very big background in coaching, and he's previously managed health and fitness facilities. You name it, he's done it. And he goes, I'm going to start a run club. And we had just moved from the Gold Coast, and a run club was how we actually made a lot of our friendships outside of our respective professions. And it has just gone bonkers. The biggest run club we had 140 people attend on a Tuesday morning at 5:45 in a town.
That's keen.
In a town of 10,000 people, like that is a significant amount of people. And where it all comes into it is the way that our run clubs had been set up. So rather than going to like a park run where you need to run a prescribed distance, the run club is a 30-minute run where it's out and back, you all start, you all finish together. And how you do that run club is up to you. So you can walk, run, you can bring your dogs, you can bring your kids, bring whoever you want, and you just move your body for 30 minutes. And our slogan, I guess, is Run, Coffee, Connect. So we run, we get our coffee, and then we sit down and talk. And that is where all of, I think, the ideas and the beliefs and all of this really good connection has actually occurred, where, people are sitting down and after they've run or walked or done something for the first time, they're going, this feels amazing. And then you're with people who are doing this daily / week in, week out. And they go, well, why don't you try this? And it's just such a positive culture where people go, well, why can't you run a half marathon? Why not? And we've had events and local sponsors and people attending, like the Sunshine Coast marathon event, where we had over 20 people sign up and come and do their first running event. And it's just gained so much inertia in the community where people are just willing to come and try something and be around such a positive culture. It's one of my favorite things about this town is the people. And I'm so glad that the Run Club is what it is and has been a medium, not only for us, for Luke and I to make friends, but for everyone else to make friends as well.
Have there been some people, some locals that you who joined the run club that you thought might last for one or two runs or walks and have gone on to bigger and better things?
Yes, absolutely. And again, this is just where Luke really deserves a tribute for this, because he has just got such a beautiful knack of encouraging people and silently coaching them into taking that next step. So we've had people who have never run before who have gone on to do 5 kilometer, 10 kilometer, half marathon, triathlon, like massive events that just wasn't on their radar. And it's not that they weren't capable, it's just that they didn't necessarily have the setting and the means to hook in. And Luke has just got the knack of really showing people what they're capable of within their bodies. So it's been a good recipe, a perfect recipe for it.
I'm sure there are a few of your fellow runners who have gone on to the Dead Cow Gully Ultra Marathon.
Yes.
Intrigued. Tell me about
Yes.
that.
So funnily enough, Dead Cow Gully is actually what put Kingaroy on the map for us as a town.
Wow.
My partner participated in it in its first year. And I think this was in 2019. So this is an ultra marathon. A local cattle farmer uses his property to hold this worldwide event where you run 6.7 kilometers every hour on the hour. And you're running through this cattle farm. It's gorgeous. And initially, so we actually came to Nanango, which is 20 minutes from Kingaroy, and that's how we came to learn of Kingaroy. And I now organise all the first aid volunteers for the event each year. And Luke has coached athletes into participating. One of the local nurses actually had ran 75 kilometers at this event this year,
wow.
Which is just so impressive for someone who's working full time, has been a local in Nanango her whole life. Very, very proud of her. But this year as well, the event broke the world record. Wow. One athlete, they run together, but the winning athlete ran 798 kilometers, which is 119 laps.
Wow.
Just under 5 days nonstop.
Oh, crikey.
I know. It is phenomenal to watch, and to think that it's happening in such a small rural community.
Yes.
I never would have known anything of it, though. This is another reason why you've just got to come and immerse yourself.
How do you factor sleep into a 5-day/night run? Can you?
It's so strategic and impressive to watch. So what they do is they will alternate between fast and slow loops. One of the athletes actually has a hypnosis coach that comes out, but they essentially will run a faster loop where they come in at like 35 minutes or so. And then they get shut eye for 5, 10, 15 minutes.
Wow.
It's nuts to watch.
Gee whiz. I think I'd need some coffee for that.
They have all sorts of naughty treats that powers the run
to keep them going.
That's right.
Well, you've kind of got me intrigued. I might have to come up and at least watch it.
You will not be disappointed.
I will book in for a motel for the night, though, to make sure I get some shut-eye at the end of the first 24 hours. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Who have been your greatest mentors in your healthcare journey so far, would you say? And why?
Yeah, this is such a tricky question, because I feel like medical students, when you macroscopically look at the time that you spend in the clinical environment and who actually positively contributes to who you become as a doctor, it would be so hard to name everyone. I think like I would love to name organizations, and I do have one specific mentor I'd like to mention. First of all, would be the Rural LongLook program, and that comes at no surprise after saying what I've said today. Um, they have really enriched and ingrained me into rural medicine and what it is. And I am just so grateful to that experience and the finesse that these guys have been, have achieved after delivering such a great program for now, 10 plus years. And I think what they're going to achieve for the rural health workforce in the long term absolutely deserves the recognition that it's phenomenal. So I am eternally grateful to them, to Rural Medical Education Australia or RuralMedEd. Um, Organisations wise as well, I'm very grateful to the Royal Flying Doctors Service and Heart of Australia. Heart of Australia has a very strict schedule where they need to see a select number of patients, but they still take the time to bring the medical student into the room to get them to see these experiences. Similarly, with RFDS, I was able to fly on primaries, which means an real-time accident where you go and land on a dirt strip in a random cattle station 600, 700 kilometers from the nearest hospital. By no means is that necessarily the best time to have a student, but they do it anyway, and it's a lifelong lasting experience. So I'm very grateful to those organizations.
And both organisations can see the investment and the value in doing that.
Yes, absolutely. As far as people go, I obviously could never have achieved how much I have on my plate. And have done so well, and still feel like a human out of the in the outside of it, I guess, without my partner Luke. Having someone in your corner through so many different identities, from me being an administrator to a nurse now to becoming a doctor, I'm eternally grateful to his support, and
his coaching and
his
running
coaching, exactly, his and his community passions and our shared passions. And I feel like when you put us together, anything that our heart is set on, we really can work together to achieve. So I'm grateful to that. And as far as actual medical mentors goes, I would love to thank Dr. Emma Marshall. So she is the Kingaroy medical educator, but she has also mentored me on a personal and professional level throughout my time here in Kingaroy, and really shown me both, the clinical and the personal side of what it means to be a rural generalist, the impact that you have on the community, the joy it brings you as a person, the brevity and the weight it also brings, rather than trying to sell it, as this unicorns and daisies. She really shows you the full breadth of the career and how committed she is. And I just think that's been so inspirational to me, and it has really made a lasting impression. And then I wanted to personally thank Gillian Wheeler as well. So she is the site coordinator and rural LongLook coordinator for Kingaroy in particular. And she just goes above and beyond to ensure that you feel welcome, you feel safe within the community, and you're enjoying your time out here. She checks in on you every single week, asks how she can enhance your experience, what do you need in your rostering, you name it, she's there. And I think, again, like having that when you're moving to a new town, it just takes that pressure off you of having to do everything yourself and not knowing who to turn to when you're having a tough time. So Jillian, but who goes by Jill, but Jill and Emma have just, I wouldn't be where I am today without them, and I'm so grateful to them.
And as you say, hearing the negatives or the challenges as well as the positives, hearing it straight is obviously quite important.
Yes, absolutely.
10 years down the track, what sort of a career mix are you hoping to have, and where?
I'll be brave and honestly voice my wishes and wants for my future. So in 10 years' time, I would love to have a women's health clinic here in Kingaroy where I can provide prenatal, antenatal, sexual health, and general women's wellbeing services, as well as like GP and primary care services for women in the Darling Downs and in Kingaroy and surrounds. I would love to have my finger in the hospital pie where I can still practice my surgical skills and clinical skills in the hospital setting and see the patient from, pre-pregnancy and planning all the way to holding their beautiful baby. And I'd love to be a mum and a wife, obviously. I think all of those things are really important to me. If I could have all of those things in 10 years, holy, I'd be chuffed.
Sounds great. Sounds terrific. And I'm sure you'll achieve it. I should note this isn't 7-Up as well, so I won't be back in 10 years' time to ask you how you're going with it. So
that's all right. I'll be able to come back and listen to it maybe. We'll see.
Yeah, that's right. Well, look, Eiryn, it's been great talking with you today. Thanks very much, and congratulations again on receiving this year's award.
Thank you so much. I'm very grateful to RDAA, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you.
And that was Eiryn Twidale, RDAA's Medical Student of the Year for 2025. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast, and I look forward to having you tune in again. Until next time, happy days.